Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again, back with another Karen story. In this video, a psycho Karen got my car towed claiming I am too young to legally drive. Let's dive right into the video. The first one is titled, I had my cousin towed. So basically my cousin parked his car on my driveway and he is blocking my work truck. He parked on my driveway because he did not have a residential parking permit to park on my street. However, he parked directly behind me instead of the other side when we have a 4-car driveway. He left from the local airport to avoid paying for parking. The worst part is that he took his keys with him on his trip. Also, I couldn't squirm my way out either. I got a 2500 Denali, which I think is a pickup truck, and a classic one in the garage that I wouldn't consider damaging for this inconvenience. Moreover, he didn't ask for permission or even give a heads up. I literally woke up and saw him blocking my driveway, and I texted him to move his car. Then he told me he's in Texas and won't be back for a week. My cousin and I never established a real relationship. Our relationship is just superficial. Ultimately, I called my police department and had his car towed. I don't intend on paying for this either. I have not notified my cousin about his car being towed. He will find out this Thursday. Update to the story, so long and behold, I finally contacted my cousin about his car. I texted him and told him to contact SMPD for his car because they have it. I received several calls and turned off my personal cell. I have not been home all day or heard anything from him. That's it as of today, until I cross paths with him again. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I'm curious, what would you have done in this situation? Would you have also gotten your entitled cousin towed? Let us know in the comments. And now let's continue with the title story, which is titled, Idiotic Psycho Karen Gets My Car Towed, Claims That I'm Too Young to Drive. So I own a slick black Mercedes that I love. Unlike a lot of other people with similar cars though, I don't speed through the streets or weave in and out of lanes or anything crazy. I'm probably the safest and most cautious driver I know because of how my mother taught me to drive when I was 16 and first learning. I had an aunt die before I was born when she was just a teenager in a car accident, so my whole family is always cautious or even nervous when it comes to driving. Despite being 30, I have the face where I can still easily get mistaken as being a teenager, my short stature not helping that fact at all as well. This comes up rarely, but when it does, it's usually people thinking they can take advantage of me by assuming I'm a lot younger and naiver than I am. I have perfected shutting people down while remaining calm because I learned early that getting emotional only makes situations worse. So I was at a small grocery store getting some ingredients for dinner. This place sold items that were a little more unique and not at a regular store. All this to explain that the parking lot was also small and could only accommodate maybe 20 cars, which never seemed to be an issue. I go outside to see that my car is just gone. It isn't there anymore, and I had a wave of panic hit thinking it had been stolen. So I go to the spot and just stare at it like my car will magically reappear. I guess somebody noticed because they told me the car was towed away about 10 minutes ago after the woman parked next to me called them. I decided against calling the police right away and instead waited for this woman and talked to her. The person I came across was if the word Karen had a picture in the dictionary. She even walked with her nose in the air like she was better than everyone else. So I took a deep breath knowing this was going to be bad. Me, did you call and get my car towed? Karen, if you mean the car that you clearly stole, then yes. Me, I didn't steal any car, it's mine. Karen, no teenager is driving around in a car that nice unless they stole it. You're not even old enough to have a license, so I had to protect everybody else. Me, I know I look young, but I'm old enough to drive and I was in a perfectly legal spot. Karen, liar, you spoiled little girl, probably stealing your daddy's car in hopes to find a boy, huh? Or maybe you think destroying cars is funny. I would have probably come back to mine being smashed into if I didn't get you off the street, huh? I know it might disappoint some of you to hear that I didn't yell back and call her every horrible name I could think of. Or smash the side mirror of her car or something petty. Instead, I kept myself together and called the tow company that took my car under clearly false pretenses. I managed to get a hold of somebody who pulled up the report that led to my car getting towed. It turned out that Karen claimed a few things, all of which were lies, in order to get my car towed. The first being that I was supposedly parked illegally, and she saw me leave the car and get on a bus to go somewhere else. Which you obviously cannot do. She also told them that she knew the car was stolen because she had known the real owner and I was his kid. She avoided the police getting involved by saying she would have my dad come retrieve it later and not wanting to get a misguided teenager into trouble. I explained to them that all of that was false and I was in the store the entire time. Also that I was a fully grown woman and owned the car they had towed away without so much as double checking Karen's story. I was willing to show them my license and proof of insurance and registration that the car was in my name and I was in fact an adult. I also was able to get store footage and my receipt showing that I was inside the entire time and did not illegally park and then leave the lot to go somewhere else. The only annoying thing was that I had to get to the tow yard, so I needed to pay for an Uber in order to get there. But you can be sure that I took down Karen's license plate number because I felt like I was not gonna be done with her yet. I got to the towing company and showed them everything, proving that the call they got was malicious and not at all valid. The owner of the company turned out to be a great man who felt horrible for his employee towing the car away without making sure Karen was telling the truth about all of this. Owner, they are 100% supposed to go inside and have an announcement made before they even think about getting the car hooked up. Me, I'm sure that the woman said some pretty big and convincing lies in order to get her way. I know she told him that she saw me walk onto a bus and away from the store. Owner, still, he shouldn't have done things like that. I promise that I'm gonna speak to him and make sure that it doesn't happen again. Me, everything is sorted? I can get my car back? Owner, yes, and I'm going to just waive the towing cost and everything else. In fact, I know you took a cab in order to get here and we are going to give you back the money for that as well. It was nice of him, but part of me felt that he was trying to just make me happy so that I did not get him in any legal trouble for what his company did to me. I may always stay calm, but that doesn't mean that I see the best in people and not assume they are acting in self-interest. Speaking of which, I was not done with her yet. I did not think that calling the police to say that Karen got my car towed under false pretenses would really get me anywhere, but I still called the non-emergency line and told them what happened while giving them the license plate number for Karen's car. They told me they would look into things, and to be totally honest, I forgot about it. Until I got an update that Karen had been arrested. Not for having my car towed exactly, but it turns out she had been doing this almost every time she went out. Having random people's car towed by telling lies and just because she didn't like how the person looked or something. The arrest was both for that and a much bigger arrest because it turned out that after all that crap she gave me, she was the one driving without a valid license. I guess she really was projecting onto everybody else. And the next one is another neighbor getting towed story. And if you've watched until here, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even leave a comment because that would help me tremendously. So one of my neighbors decided to park their car and block my driveway. My household decides to call the city's parking department to leave them a $108 ticket. We opted not to tow just to see if they will pay attention and move it. The next day the vehicle was still there, so we called the city again and told them to tow it. It came with a second $108 blocking driveway ticket and a tow truck to take it away. The penalty for towing is a $347 administrative fee, $293 if first offense, and $286 tow truck fee, and more fees than if the vehicle is not retrieved within the first 4 hours. Hopefully they learned their lesson, but they had it coming at the tow lot. Other than the 2 blocked driveway tickets and towing charges in order to get their vehicle out of the lot, they also had to pay all their outstanding parking tickets, which amounted to $1,800. How did I know that they had a bunch of unpaid parking tickets? Well, they haven't paid their vehicle registration to the California DMV for 2 years. And the DMV won't issue new tags until you paid off all your parking, as well as toll evasion and other debts. I took a look at the public information posted on the city's online citation portal and with an easy search found out that they had several unpaid tickets and how much they owed. They decided to ignore every parking ticket they were given because they were fined heavily for failure to pay on time. Missing first-time payment deadline, $38, missed second payment deadline, $53, and for missing the second payment, $40 and sent to collections. If they paid their tickets in a timely manner, they would have paid a mere $752 excluding the 2 new $108 driveway tickets, but for failure to pay, they owed $1,800. Also, to get their vehicle released from the tow lot, they had to pay $2,649, $2,595 if first-time tow. I find it amusing that they can afford a new fancy electric car in their driveway, but the other car that was towed refused to pay their parking tickets and vehicle tax. As of today, they still haven't paid their vehicle registration. Added/additional, just how much was one of their parking tickets? Well, one of their tickets was $90 if paid on time within 50 days, but with all the penalties for failure to pay, it went to the maximum of $221, and some have asked, did I knock on their door before towing? Well, the parking officer did after running their plate number into their handheld device. My city also has an opt-in service that they'll text message you if your vehicle is gonna be towed. If they signed up, they would have a short period of time starting from when the officer calls for the tow truck and when the tow truck arrives. And the next one is titled, My car was stolen by a local tow company. So my car was at a dealership, we are now part of a class action lawsuit and had to buy a third car because of it. The car does not run and won't ever end up running again without the recall from said car company being rolled back out. So we paid the diagnostic fee for the dealership to diagnose that the engine was dead. Due to a manufacturing flaw, they are being sued over and have rolled out multiple recalls over. Well, today my spouse thought he was talking to AAA and they were picking up the car. The person on the other end assured them that they were AAA. I told him that was weird because AAA requires you to be on site for a tow with your ID. But I didn't know if they had worked something out since I was at work all day, so I get home and the car is not here. Mind you, I'm not super concerned about it because the damn car does not even run. It's basically a piece of crap I owe $12K on that's gonna sit in my driveway. I speak to him before he goes to bed and he comes out with the following. So the tow truck shows up and demands payment. He is adamant that he has AAA service and is not paying because he wouldn't have had them pick up the car if he had known they were not AAA. They leave with the vehicle. I have no idea who has my car. He doesn't either. All of the phone numbers he wrote down when I googled them came up as scam numbers. Neither of us signed for the car to be picked up. No one signed for the dealership to release it. I have no clue how this even happened. I've never even picked up my own car without signing paperwork for it. They just gave it to them. Now I'm concerned that I'm going to need to pay hundreds in tow fees if I can track down this random tow company, which I don't even know who it is. And I never ever agreed to release my car to. I love my spouse. But sadly, he's not always the brightest bulb. And this is just, I can't. Can I file a police report with APD? Was my car stolen? What the hell? Update to the story. Well, I certainly feel like the effing thing was stolen. This guy just purchased a tow truck and is an owner-operator. He was definitely trying to charge some crazy amounts too. I referred him to this website, Consumer Information About Towing, Texas.gov, updated to @correct website. He said he never heard of it and didn't care, and if he really wanted to, he could have charged me $800 to get my car back when he first towed it to the house. He also kept switching back and forth between calling himself another name and then referring to an owner and then referring to himself. I think he's the only employee. He kept referring to some mystery person, and when I asked him who that was, he was really non-specific. He would then call someone his boss and then he would tell me that he was the owner and his name was Yusef. I'm pretty sure he is the owner and only employee. He told me my husband told him the first day that he was going to have him waste time and drive our car to the house pretending he has cash. My spouse would have never agreed to pay for a tow, as stupid as he is. He knows he wouldn't pay for AAA. He went back and forth between wanting me to pay $500 and even at one point went to $350 because I was being respectful. So in the end, I'm setting a date in tow court because I really don't think this guy's gonna release my car if I pay him the $350 he lowered it to. I had a police officer in Round Rock involved at one point and he was basically like, yeah, this guy's shady. I could not get the dude to answer about 90% of my calls, but he would answer the cop immediately. I also have him changing the price by removing taxes and other fees if paid in the next 30 minutes in text messages, along with telling us that we need to stop involving the police because it's not their business. So well, we'll see how tow court works out. Update number 3. Yusef is housing my vehicle at his personal home address. Why is he doing this? I don't know. My car is full of tools that are worth more than the car at this point. I had neglected to get them while the car was at the dealership. Ignorantly, I assumed eventually the car would be back at my house, but after days of pressing Yusef for the location of my vehicle so I could inspect it and retrieve said tools, he kept acting as if he were in an actual hostage negotiation, saying things like, You can pick up on Friday. Give me an hour notice and I'll provide you the address. And I'm scared to tell you the location. If I tell you now and you don't show up by 7 PM, you can only get your belongings when the vehicle is released. After being pressed and thinking whatever weird little thoughts go on in his head, he sent me the address. It's his damn home address. To say I want myself or my spouse at his extremely shady house rifling through our car is the understatement of the year. This guy honestly seems so damn shady, is so effing shady, that I would be concerned for my safety. He also does not seem very bright. I'm concerned that he might become afraid or try to shoot us like all those stories you see in the news. A random person uses their driveway and in their peanut brain they need to come out guns blazing. I do believe that Yusef could be that type of stupid. I feel personally that I'm being pranked in some way. All of this gets more and more stupid by the day, and every time I think, this has got to be the dumbest effing thing ever. But then something even dumber happens or is revealed to me. I've now emailed my application for a date in tow court. I'm exhausted, but tonight I'm putting in my TDLR complaint. I failed an exam last week because I spent so much time chasing Yusef down and going back and forth, so I didn't study at all. I honestly feel like I'm developing a Rosie O'Donnell Donald Trump style relationship with this man, and when our conflict is gone, I'll miss it, or maybe not, I don't know. Final update, I won in court. 2 days prior to winning, the dip crab contacts me and says, I have your car for 15 days and in 15 days you will lose it. You can insert some other BS about how he doesn't want to have to take my car and he wants to work with me, blah blah blah. I inform the idiot that we are going to court. Dipshit becomes concerned and immediately starts lowering the price and offering to drop the car off. And of course he does this while insisting that there's no way we are going to court because he has not been served. I inform him that I've fulfilled my obligations and I'm under no means required to ensure that he has or received proper service in tow court. I tell him I will give him $150 and he needs to give me my damn car back the next day. So I pick up my car from him with an actual tow truck driver from AAA. While we are waiting there, the driver informs me that the lot is where he keeps his tow truck. He also says I should call the cops because the guy is not licensed to keep cars at this location, and he also isn't responding to calls and texts at this point. Yusef responds to ask me my problem and call me annoying, and I believe tells me to shut the hell up or something like that before finally arriving. This is after an hour of us waiting there for him. Dipshit arrives and it's literally some effing kid. He gave my boobs an angry stare, demanded his money, and releases my car to the other tow truck driver, who immediately starts cracking jokes about how I owe him $400. When I finally get to court, he doesn't show. I tell the judge the story and he seemed confused to say the least. Honestly, he seemed to express that he wasn't sure my car had not been stolen and if this was really a real towing company. He basically says, well, this guy didn't show up and good luck getting your money back. I'm ruling in your favor. He rules that I'm owed my $150 plus $55 in court costs. I disputed the charge with my bank, who was also confused by my continued mention of fraud and a court order. The lady had no clue what I was talking about, and hopefully that works out. I'm sorry it was not less anticlimactic. At this point, honestly, I expected the guy might show up at my house and tow a different car to teach me a lesson or something. I'm sure if I'd have just waited, my car would have been released for free, but having it released for $150 ensured that even if I'd lost, I'd paid far less than what I'd be if the judge had sided with him. That's the last of a story you all didn't give a damn about and let me carry out over the course of many weeks. My POS car is now parked outside as a $300 per month reminder to never ever buy American again. The next one is titled Legal Revenge. A few years ago, my now ex-wife filed a false restraining order against me. She was living with her boyfriend, we were getting a divorce in another state at the time, and had decided that a false restraining order was an excellent way to be awarded full possession of the vehicle I had purchased. We only had one key to the vehicle and she was in possession of both the key and the vehicle. This is important for later. I was exceedingly upset that she had knowingly filed a false restraining order, and upon being served, I immediately submitted my appeal and request for a hearing. I contacted my company and had them print off all my Department of Transportation GPS logs as well as company internal vehicle tracker data. I also printed out my personal GPS tracking data from the navigation system I was using. So not only did I have federally accredited logs showing exactly where I was, or more importantly was not, and I also had 2 very detailed systems information showing my exact speed, cardinal direction, and other pertinent info. Recorded in 2 minutes and 30-second intervals. After I had compiled an entire body of evidence, I wrote a 3-page testimony to read to the court/judge to assist in explaining the entirety of the data as well as present my side of the appeal. Almost 30 days pass and I realized that upon adjournment of the case and subsequent exiting of the courthouse, there's a chance that I'll be able to reach my vehicle before my ex does. With this in mind, I decided to contact the dealership from which I had purchased the vehicle and acquired a second key. As we had only received 1 key when we purchased the vehicle, I knew she would not expect me to even be capable of driving away in it. So fast forward a few days to the court date. I had driven across 2 states to attend this court judgment appeal with all my paperwork, written testimony, and key to the vehicle. I arrived approximately 4 hours prior to the hearing time and patiently waited for the magic moment to come. Bad news though, it was extremely anticlimactic. As she was a no-show, the judge summarily ruled in my favor and the restraining order was dismissed. The judge then asked if I had anything further for the court, and if not, I was free to go. So I very politely asked, "Me, Your Honor, it is my understanding that the restraining order/PPO is lifted, yeah?" Judge: "Yes, ma'am." Me: "So am I at this time able to retrieve my vehicle?" Judge: "Ma'am, as the judge of this courtroom, I'm unable to provide you with any form of legal advice." Me: "Okay, so I'm sorry." Judge: "However, if you find a seat in the back of my courtroom, my secretary/court recorder, I don't remember the term, will provide you with a signed order of dismissal for the restraining order and PPO. If you were to be questioned by law enforcement for any reason regarding property or contact, it's best to have this documentation on your person, as the cancellation of the order may not reach the police system until close of business today." The way in which the judge had worded her response was very clear in intent. She could not specifically tell me that I was good to retrieve my vehicle, but she was taking the extra time to provide me with the paperwork that gave me a legal opportunity to retrieve my vehicle. So I sat down, and after nearly 10 minutes, the court official that was designated with the task of typing and printing the paperwork got the judge's signature on it and brought it to me. As I put it in my binder of other paperwork and turned to leave the courtroom, the judge called out to me, "Judge, Mrs. OP." Me, turning in mild surprise, "Yes, Your Honor." Judge with a devious smile, "Good luck." So now I had to formulate a plan. See, as the ex-wife had not been present for the court proceedings, neither was my vehicle. I had the address for her boyfriend/boyfriend's parents' house, as it was all over the initial restraining order's list of protected properties. And she had accidentally left a notebook with it written upon it when she first left to be with the guy. I decided to utilize Uber to go to the address and check if the vehicle was present at the address. Upon starting the Uber trip, I requested the driver to wait for me at the address after dropping me off, giving her a quick summary of my circumstances and plan to ensure that I had a witness present for the intended retrieval of my vehicle. Quite simply to ensure that no false allegations of fictitious activities during the recovery of said vehicle would have a metaphorical leg to stand upon in court. The lady Uber driver was sympathetic to my cause and agreed, even going so far as to give me her personal contact info in the event I required her for a future court appearance. Upon arrival at the address I had available, the vehicle was indeed present. The Uber lady waited until I had acquired the vehicle, left the premises, and she followed me about 2 miles to witness that I had left the property completely, and then she went on her way. Bless that lady, she was a saint. So I make it about a half hour away and my phone rings. I answered it and it was my ex's boyfriend, and as you can imagine, he was not happy. He rambled off several vulgarities and other random insulting comments which I entirely brushed off. Then he made a very large and unintelligent mistake. He said, "If I ever see you again here or anywhere, I will blow your head off." Now, I'm a veteran, I don't take very kindly on threats to my life. I was upset at him, I was upset at her, and I was just handed a gift-wrapped means of complete and utter destructive revenge. I immediately hung up with him and dialed 911 to report a verbal threat on my life. I headed to the parking lot of a local big box store to meet the responding officer and ensured I did not leave until I had a case number, attached written statement, and the reporting officer's identification information. I completed my trip to my home state, and the following Monday, this was all on a Friday, I went to my local courthouse and filed for an emergency restraining order/PPO. The judge that was available to hear my case for an emergency order was interestingly enough the same judge handling the divorce. She listened to the case I provided, reviewed the police report information I provided, and issued the requested emergency order. Does not sound like a pro-revenge, does it? Well, my ex-wife was living with the guy in his parents' basement. The restraining order / PPO issued by the judge protected myself, my property, and my spouse from him. See, we were still legally married, so I was legally able to list her as protected party. When the restraining order was served, he could not be within 600 feet of my now ex-wife. As she lived with him in his parents' basement, he was not the one that had to leave. She was. But she no longer had my vehicle. She lost her brand new job and she wasn't able to get to school. So of course she failed her college course but was stuck with the student loans for it anyway. She was now homeless, vehicleless, jobless, kicked out of college for non-attendance, penniless as she is atrociously bad with finances, and to top it all off, she was nearly 4 months pregnant with his kid. Moral of the story, don't piss off a lesbian veteran. I don't like to play games, I will go out of my way to avoid playing games. I will bend over backwards to make sure I don't have to play games. But if you force my hand into playing aforementioned games, well, I will not be the one that loses the game, which is something I told her verbatim on our 3rd or 4th date. I guess she forgot. And yeah guys, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on all major podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts. Furthermore, you can find bonus content by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or by clicking the join button here on YouTube. For a small monthly fee, you will get access to dozens and dozens of exclusive videos you won't find anywhere else. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you again tomorrow.